In today's business world, being an average CEO is no longer an option. That's why we're committed to equipping you with the resources and the tactics necessary to not just survive, but to thrive. You're listening to Not Your Average CEO Lifeline podcast, where we are more than just a voice in the crowd. Hi, everyone. Again, Not Your Average CEO Lifeline. Today, we have the honor and opportunity to hear from Dr. Emily Heisey and Dr. Matt Otteman. They are co-owners of Kinactive Kids. Our episode today, we're going to talk about business unplugged and breaking traditions and learning new secrets. So we're hoping to hear all of their great business secrets. Emily and Matt are known for their pediatric therapy intensives and all things pediatric, chiropractic, gross motor, but today they are going to talk to us about their business success. All exclusive advice, action items that are going to be incredible for you. So Emily, Matt, thank you so much. Can you talk to our audience a little bit about yourselves, a little bit about your business, and just introduce yourselves?
Yeah. So my name is Dr. Emily Heisey, like you said. I have been a pediatric physical therapist going on 15 years. I know, like I look super young. But yeah, I mean, I always, I don't know if I always wanted to work with kids, but this is where I ended up and I loved it. I had my two daughters, and after working what I say with the man, like for the man, I decided I wanted to go back and work for myself and make my own rules. What that meant was kind of just taking a leap and going to an outpatient orthopedic clinic where I had to get my own clients. I did all my own marketing. I went to, Facebook groups that had moms in them. I went to, kindergarten classes and pediatricians, and I just built up, a caseload. And it was so funny because it was like an 8-month-old working out next to like an 80-year-old. I mean, it's obviously, and
both in diapers.
But right, twice a child, once an adult. But it was simply perfect because I was doing it the way I wanted to do it, and I didn't want to go with the insurance model and how they did things. I didn't want them to dictate what I was doing. So what started in like 2018 quickly grew into a full LLC, and I was like, okay, this is happening because I never, ever in a billion years wanted to be a business owner. I'm not good at business. I know nothing about business. But apparently there were other plans for me, and doors were opened, and I said, well, let's just figure this out, one step at a time. Just real quick, funny backstory. I remember when I got e-fax, I don't know why I thought I needed a physical fax machine. I was like pushing like on the computer, like a monkey, yeah. Anyway, so there was definitely some bumps along the way. And I quickly learned that the need was there and I needed to step up. So fast forward to 2020, and I got my own office space. It was just one little room. I hired my very first front office girl, and there we went. And so there was no plan. There was nothing that was kind of placed out like I have all these things in order. It was just like go balls to the wall and figure it out. And so that shortly after that, I met Matt. I always knew I wanted to start my business with a chiropractor, mainly because my youngest daughter had some issues with acid reflux that caused some delays. And I took her both to a chiropractor, and then she worked with me. And I said, I want to build a business off of this. And with that, I found him, and he said, I don't want to work with kids. And I said, but you will though, right? And so it was like a year after that he finally said yes. After that, we acquired the whole second floor. Our business went from, everything really came from Instagram, and it really still does. So don't undermine what social media can do. But just putting ourselves out there, and now we're serving kiddos from how many different countries?
Almost 25 countries.
Over
40 states.
Over 40 And we have like a full blown business. It's not just us. We have other chiropractors, other PTs that work here. We have, a whole thing. So it's kind of wild. I don't know. It's hard to explain, I think, because it's almost, and this all happened within
a short period of time, it seems.
a short period of time.
Yeah.
So to say, I really feel like we're good for this podcast, because if anyone is not your average, like CEO, like not your average business, it's this one. So
Yeah.
Yeah. I happened to see one of your Instagram posts. I follow you personally because I have 2 daughters that have had issues. And you had put a post about business, and it resonated with me. And that was really what I said, I need to have her and him on my podcast, because the growth, the uniqueness is something other business owners need to hear and be inspired by, because there are just so many things that go on when you start a business.
Mm-hmm.
so much that goes on. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot. So I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I'm Dr. Otteman. I'm a family chiropractor. Like she said earlier, I did not plan on working with pediatrics. I played professional baseball, and I was like, I'm going to do sports. I'm going to do athletics. I was a strength coach for a long time. I helped start a gym up in New York, and I was like, well, I don't want to lift weights for other people anymore, so I need to do something else. And I really love the autonomy that came with chiropractic. A lot of chiropractors are business owners, and I really did like that. So yeah, fast forward 2020, we connect actually through Instagram. I was at a practice down the street, and I was working on families, and loved what she was doing. The information that she was putting out felt like was very digestible for me to give to these families that I was seeing. And then we, little did I know, she was just testing me the entire time of like, how good are you at what you do? And it's worked out. We've worked out a lot of the kinks. I think we make a phenomenal team, because
It's a lot. There was a lot of fights,
Yeah.
a lot of fights.
Yeah.
But
And that's just for like clinically, because chiropractors and PTs. So those of you that don't know about that world, they don't always see eye. They butt heads. Chiropractors don't like working with PTs. PTs don't like working with chiropractors. So the fact that we are doing this and the way that we do it is showing a new light to a model that, in our opinion, is a little bit broken. So we're
and dated.
Changing the game. We have some exciting things coming up in the future for that. But to go back, like, I think we're the perfect, business owner relationship, because like she said, she's not a business owner, but she also downplays it. Like, she's fantastic at marketing, social media. She knows like exactly what the consumer is looking for. And I'm more of the analytics and the numbers, like, let's look at projections and all of that. And I think you have to have a little bit of that. The big thing that we built our business on is be really good at what you do, and then find other people that are really good at what they do. Mm-hmm. So for me as a clinician, right, I wanted to find something to fill the gaps in my professional. But as business owners, maybe I'm definitely not as creative as she is. She's not as analytical as I am.
No,
but
not at all.
You don't have to be, because we found each other and we're working together. So maybe that's a coach or something like that. For us, it really works well.
Yeah, but I love that. Yeah, go ahead, Danielle. I know, because we're yin and yang too. So
yes, but it works. We've been working together forever, and it works perfectly because of that. And I think we were talking a little bit about having a team. What has been other than working with each other, what has been the most impactful hire that you guys have made?
I mean, I think it's going to be different for both of us. For me, it was realizing, like he said, I'm definitely not business minded. When he says I'm good at marketing, I really just am authentic and just try to be myself, and that seems to work. But I always knew I couldn't scale a business without having systems and procedures and all the things. So for me, the most significant one was like me asking Matt to co-own the business with me when I had been doing it by myself, and really giving some of that control away, which was hard.
That's like the nicest thing
Yeah.
you ever said.
Oh my goodness.
Is this being recorded?
Yes, there you go. I know. I'm being sweet and kind. I typically not. But yeah, and having someone take that aspect of the business and turn it into something that is scalable and that we can reach more families and we could be more profitable, and just work like a well-oiled machine.
Yeah. And I'd say, first of all, obviously working with Emily, hands down.
Are you just saying that because I just said that?
Answer, but I won't do that because you took that from me. What I was going to say is probably and we've had business coaches, public relations people. But I think finding a really impactful, in our clinic, especially front office person, her name's Beverly. She is the sweetest. I call her the Bevinator. But she is when you're client facing, she's the first person that these people that come from all over the world to see us. And she's a friendly face and somebody that like welcomes them. We hear it all the time that people come into our office and they immediately feel welcomed. Even the emails, we call them like she bevifies the emails because they're just so personalized and she has such a great heart. And I think that, and she's just a badass at scheduling and doing all of she checks all the boxes.
You have to have that in a business. You have to have that. It's almost like the brick and mortar face of the business. And if they fall short, the whole business falls short. And it could even be as simple as how they greet people and how efficient they are with getting back to people, how they answer the phone, simple things like that. Just very simplistic customer care can make all of the difference.
It's like we talk about the Ritz-Carlton experience. Like we want them to feel like they are the most important people when they walk through our doors. And she does a great job of that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah, I wrote an article about even if you have a luxury service, if you don't have customer service, you have nothing. You absolutely have nothing.
You'd be a flash in a pan.
Yeah. You will. I really want to ask you a little bit more about how you two operate. A lot of our listeners may feel like they are a sole entrepreneur, or they may just be a two-person machine. What do you guys put in place to make sure that you're communicating, that you're on the same page? Do you have regular meetings? What, hard action items do you have to make sure this is working between Matt and Emily?
I mean, I think we have definitely worked a lot with this. We always get mistaken that we're married. We are not. I'm married. But we're like work married because you're doing like all the same things that you would probably do in a marriage or a friendship with your business partner. With that being said, you have to have the lines of communication always open. You have to have full trust in that person. I'm an Enneagram 8. And so I don't know if y'all have done the Enneagram, but Enneagram 8s, they like love hard and they hate hard, and everything rides on trust. So if you trust that person, you really can open yourself up to that other person and open yourself up to something that is the most vulnerable for you. And for me, that was my business. And so being open and trustworthy, you can really banter back and forth, and you can be comfortable saying the things that piss you off. And I think that's the most important part, is telling and be open about the things that you don't agree about and then working through that. That would be what I'd say.
Yeah, obviously communication is so important, and just understanding even past communication, because you can talk to each other, but you have to understand what the other person is trying to say. Again, another analogy for chiropractors and PTs, we look through a slightly different lens at the same person, at the same thing. So because of that, I could be saying one thing, she could be saying something else. We're saying the same thing, but using a different terminologies or different things. So if we were just looking at the words we were saying, listening to the words we were saying, we again would run into that butting heads. You don't know what you're talking about. But I think we've done a good job of really sitting down, working through hard things of like, oh, let's talk through this. For example, we talked earlier this week with the rest of our team. I do think meetings are important. I think there's little things that you have to work through to get to the end goal.
Yeah, and having those scheduled is important.
Right. But she's also very action item. So she doesn't need the day to day, let's have a big brainstorm session for an hour and a half that we can get into with our marketing team. But it's like, okay, that's great. What are the action items? How do we move forward with this? And yeah, just coming together and understanding that, yeah, we do need meetings, but at the same time, we do need action items.
Yeah, I think each co-owner needs to know their strengths and their triggers. For me, a trigger is too many meetings. And then I just like zonk out and I don't want to be there at all, which just ticks everyone else off. But also like, I probably wouldn't have gone into business like with another woman. I love my like girlfriends, but I know that I couldn't be in this analytical space with like another woman. I don't know. So know that in yourself and just be open with knowing that you're going to disagree and it's business. It's not personal.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, it's for the best because again, you are looking through the same option, the same problem through a different lens. You, at the end of that, you can come together and see the whole picture of what's going on and then make really educated decisions on what to do with that problem.
Yeah.
I like, Emily, that you said triggers. A lot of people talk about what's my behavioral style, but they don't know the trigger. You know, Danielle's trigger is if you say, hey, let's have a meeting and you don't tell her what it is. That's it. It's like she won't stop obsessing until you tell her why she needs to be in this meeting. So the triggers are really important.
Yeah, we sound similar, Danielle. I'm like, we have a freaking meeting? What?
I need to know, or I get anxiety about it.
Yeah.
So I think, the theme of, from just what I know about you guys and from our conversation and how you work is that it's really, against the grain. And it's really different. And so love to just, hear how you kind of balance that, going against the grain, doing things that are unique versus, kind of doing what we're always told to do as you run a business.
Yeah. I always imagined a CEO, a business owner, obviously first and foremost, having background in business, having necessary steps, put in line prior to starting that business. And then once you're in it, you kind of figure the other things out. We did not do that. Like I said, not a business person. I am strictly like a healthcare, I just love treating kids. I have more of a science background, definitely not a math or marketing background. But I think you, again, have to join yourself with other people who do have that skill base and allow you to grow from there. What would you say?
Yeah, that's I feel like a couple different directions I could go with that. But I think from a business owner perspective, going against the grain, like she said, you have these like what you're supposed to do, right? You have all these supposed to's. And for sometimes like that, you may think that you need to do something, but really in the situation, it calls for something else. Don't be afraid to go against the grain in that situation. Listen to what's going on.
Or just step out past feeling like you have to have all of these things, before starting a business. You don't start.
So one example I can think of is early on, we grew very fast. We call them Kinactive camps. They're therapy intensive for kids with special needs. And that's what these people are coming all over for. They last anywhere between 1 to 4 weeks, where families uproot their lives for weeks at a time to come work with us. So just a little bit of background on that. Our first year when we started working together in 2020, we did 8 of those intensive model Kinactive camps. The next year we did 45. The next year after that, we did 145.
Wow.
And then last year we did 183. And this year we're planning to hit over 200. So it was a very fast growth. And if we would have just done what we were supposed to do, which was like have all the systems and procedures and all the the ducks in a row and all the buckets lined up and all of that, we would have missed that opportunity and we wouldn't have grown. Now, we did have to go back and say, okay, let's get our crap together.
Yeah, we almost put the cart before the horse, if you will.
Yeah.
But if we wouldn't have done that, I mean, I remember in those first meetings sitting there, we literally could not make goals because we just blew everything out of the water. Like we'd be like, oh, let's get 2 campers next week. And now we have 12 that come in. Like,
what a good problem to have.
It was a great problem
to have. Yeah.
We're very blessed. I don't know why God has put us on this path and but here we are. And so all that to say, just because you're supposed to do something, if the opportunity is presenting itself, like take a hold of it, run with it. And then you can always go back and say, okay, let's slow down. Let's get some systems and procedures in order so that it doesn't look like Fire Festival in your office.
I swear that's what people used to say because 90% of our marketing was done through Instagram. They didn't know anything. It was like Fire Festival. They were like, is this real? We're going to come across the country, across the world to some place in South Lake, Texas to take our kid. Are they really there? And
and our website was like a paragraph. It was a paragraph and an intake form. And we booked 200, 300 camps using that simple process. And now it's much more organized and streamlined.
So I guess to that, I would say your product is going to speak for itself. And so you may have to catch up some of the other stuff to align and scale the business. But if you have a good product, people will come to either buy it, or be a part of it.
So hopefully that answered that. I know that was kind of
that was long-winded.
That was great. Danielle and I deal with, is your business legitimate all the time, right? And especially, or when they hear her voice and she sounds young, they go, how old are you? But you have it's tenfold, it's exponential, right? Because people are actually traveling. So I couldn't imagine what that feels like, both on your end, on the customer end.
Yeah.
I have a ton more questions. And I know that we are running out of time. Danielle, do you have any last minute questions for Matt and Emily before we talk?
Oh gosh, I feel like I have so many too, just because of what you guys have done and grown so exponentially, like you said. I'd love just to ask, and I know we're running out of time, but we talk a lot about traditional advertising, and that's where people will put, a lot of their money and budget. And I know that you guys have done everything on Instagram, basically. Why do you think that, dumping all that money or budget into advertising, isn't everything? And how do you think that's led to better results for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, we went through, after being on Instagram for about 1.5 years, 2 years, I hired a marketing advertising team. And, with some of the videography that we did, they were like, we're going to do Facebook ads. We are going to spend all this money to get, more people into, because we have master classes for parents, sitting, crawling, walking, that 4th trimester, what you're trying to figure out those first 4 months of life.
Yeah. So that was for a product. It wasn't necessarily for services, but we had a product that was getting.
Yes, exactly. And prior to that, the product was actually pretty lucrative. But they were like, we're going to try this. It's going to be amazing. We made no money with all of that Facebook, Instagram, all of the ads. And what I can dial that back to is that prior to that and after that, it was simply reaching the audience where they were at and being genuine and authentic and letting them know, I've been through this, I'm not trying to sell you anything. I am just purely trying to educate. And so I think that authenticity and being a mother comes across. Whereas when you're really trying so hard to sell a product or sell your services and it doesn't come truly from your heart, it just comes off kind of skanky and gross. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I've never been good at selling anything, but I just talk about things that I'm passionate about. And what I'm passionate about is, our business and what we sell and our clinician education and our parent education. And so, yeah, I think for us, my very first marketing person I ever hired, because I didn't know how to use Instagram, right? So I had to hire someone to be like, so how do I post?
So you hadn't used it like personally either when you.
Yeah. And so he was like, you need to not give all the information out to all these people, like, because people are going to want more. And I said, well, I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. I was like, how about I just provide them with a lot of education, and through that it builds trust, and then they want to continue, to come back. And he said, well, it doesn't work like that in business. I said, well, that's what I'm going to do. And honestly, that's what I did do. And I won. Not him.
You did. You definitely did.
I don't know. What would you say?
Yeah, I think ads, there's a time and a place. I think like we talked about earlier this week, like when you miss the mark with the messaging that you're trying to communicate with an ad. And I think what was going on there was just it was very professional. It looked very good. But it didn't connect with the person that it was targeted
and our
to.
specific audience. Yeah.
And that's where it's like doing something just because it's the way it's always been done, again, isn't necessarily a good answer anymore. There's like the game is changing all the time. Social media is happening so fast, and people don't want to just be sold all the time. So how can we connect with them on a deeper level? Like go through our struggles, like we're both parents of little kids. Like we are in it too. They want to see that. They can see like who we are as people and the struggles that they have, we have too. And then that builds that trust. You give them a little bit of help. You give free content. They do want more. That's not a bad thing. That's a great thing, right? And then it's just how do we get them towards, from a business side, right? How do we get them towards the products and services that we have then?
Yeah.
I think that's fabulous advice because, Danielle and I work with business owners all day long, right? That's what we do. We talk to them and they're always looking for, how much money do I have to spend on ads? What do I have to say? And just engage with your customers on a real level. And that's what they're looking for. And a lot of people are missing the mark at the current moment.
Because isn't that harder, right? Isn't that harder to do that? Be vulnerable, put yourself
vulnerable,
out there, take the time. Yeah. I mean, I swear to God, I'm a slave to Instagram, a slave to TikTok. I mean, and it's just part of the job. But again, it brings in that audience and those customers. But yeah, that's even harder. It's way easier to pay a sum of money for an ad.
Yeah. Or to have someone do it, right? Just create these ads. I don't want to be the face. I don't, just do it and it'll bring the leads in, but that's not working anymore. And
and a good solution for us is we have a great marketing team now. They're fantastic. Lucid Creative, they're awesome, but they kind of do the things that need to get done with marketing. Right, we need to put content up that showcases our products. We need to get something up that showcases, our unique selling propositions for camp and all of that. That's not fun for us to talk about. So if it was up to us, like that probably wouldn't get done. But they're great at that. It's okay, cool. Here's the objective that you have. We need to get something like that up. Let's get a monthly calendar or something. We go 2 weeks out at a time. And then for us, we can have fun with it. And that's where it's like, we can talk about, have a dog crawling all over your shoulder while you're trying to talk about some,
or, Spicy Wednesday, whatever.
You can have fun with it, but it still as a business owner, there's things that need to happen. But as a business owner, if you don't like to do that, hire out, let them do that. You can have fun with it.
Yeah.
So as you know, our podcast is not your average CEO. We'd love to wrap up our interview with you with asking each of you what that phrase means to you.
I'm going to make you answer first.
I think not your average CEO. That is, I think it's like we talked about, like doing something just the way it's always been done because it's what you're supposed to do. Like that's not a good enough answer anymore. Things happen too fast, too many things change. And if you just sat around and waited because it was for something that you're supposed to do, you're going to miss the bus. So don't be afraid to go against the grain. Don't be afraid to, even if it's not something that you're good at, like put yourself out there and just, jump and figure out how to open the parachute on the way down.
I love that.
I guess like the first thing I always think about is like, what is the average CEO, right? And it's like we talked about, they have everything together. So not the average CEO is doing things outside the box because you may not be good at the quote unquote CEO roles, but you have a passion and a product that you want to sell. And with that, you're ready to take chances. So I think it's a lot of confidence in yourself and what you have to offer other people, and not wavering throughout that. And then figuring out who you can hire to fill in the gaps as you go down the line and that business grows.
Well, thank you both for giving us insight tips. I know we could have picked your brain all day. I hope that season 4, we can potentially have you back to dig a little deeper, because there were so many questions that I really wanted to ask you. And I think our listeners would value that fast growth and that being not coming from a business background. I know I can relate. There are a lot of questions to dive into. So I hope you'll be back for season 4, but thank you very much for bringing all of the advice to our listeners. Thank you for joining us today. Can you both tell us where our listeners can find more from you?
Yeah, so you can go to kinactivekids.com. That's where we have parenting resources there for milestone masterclasses. So if you're looking for, purposeful play ideas, doesn't have to be hard. You're going to play with your kid, do it in a purposeful way, helps their brain development. That's all on our website. That's called Kinactive Community. We have our clinician education. So if you're a chiropractor, PT, and OT, anybody that works with kids, if you're in school, wants to go into pediatrics, that's a great resource for you. That's called Kinactive University. And then Kinactive Camps, if you have a child that maybe is stuck, maybe has been given a diagnosis, and you feel lost or hopeless, because it can be hard in those shoes, we are here to support you. We'd love to see you, but we'd love to just connect with you and help along that path too. And that's our Kinactive Camps, again, all at kinactivekids.com. And then socials.
Yeah. And then Kinactive_kids is my handle. And it's just a little bit of everything, a little bit of parent humor, a little bit of fashion, a whole lot of gross motor development.
Yep. And mine's Dr. Otto DC. I'm not as, not as
crude,
crazy. I don't do spicy Wednesdays, things like that, but I do give some good tips.
Well, thank you both so much.
Yeah. Thanks for having us. Look forward to next year.
You've been listening to Not Your Average CEO Lifeline with your hosts Danielle Cuomo, CEO, and Nicole Els, COO. This podcast has been sponsored by Virtual Assist USA. If you'd like to know more about the hosts or exploring virtual assistant services, visit virtualassistusa.com for more information.